Good morning. It's a good day to go visit a space agency, or at least a rocket company. I'll be going to Gilmour Space Technology, and they're going to show me around and show me a bit about what they do. My name's Dylan O'Donnell, and you're watching Star Stuff.
I want to go to the rocket company.
Sorry. Driving montage in 3, 2, 1. And we're here at Gilmour Space Technologies. Let's go say hello.
Dylan, how are you, mate?
James, good to
Nice
see you.
Good to see you.
Finally. That was awesome. I got to see some of the training facilities that Gilmour Space Technologies has set up. Some replica actual spacecraft, which we're going to try and get to Star Stuff with Byron Bay in 6 weeks' time. And James and I sat down and had a proper interview, which I'm going to leave at the end of this vlog. It's about 5-6 minutes, and James talks about the future of the Australian space industry, and we touch on some other points about the finer details of building rockets in this country. Did you see that? What else? This week has been insane for Australian astronomy. If you're an Australian astronomer, you probably feel a bit like this. We had the ABC Stargazing Live. This is the first time it hasn't been broadcast in the UK by the BBC, but it's really taken off here in Australia. This is the second year it's been running, and we broke the world stargazing record, which was great. I went out with my son Zenon. We took his little Astro 5.5 and we went and watched the moon with 40,000 other people across Australia, and we smashed the record, which is great. It's a bit of public outreach, and I think a lot of people have come over to the hobby of astronomy, especially kids, which is just fantastic to see. The highlight though was that Professor Brian Cox actually showed one of my images live on television, and he gushed about the settings and the gear, which was fantastic.
And satellites make beautiful subjects for astrophotographers. Just look at these pictures our viewers have sent us.
Yeah, this is a beautiful one from Dylan O'Donnell. And so it looks like a picture of the moon unless you look closely. And then you see, look at that track down there. That is the International Space Station. And you know what? I'm going to tell you, this is my last night. They can't find me anymore. I'm going really geeky. I'll tell you what that was. A Celestron 9¼ inch SET Edge F10, Canon 70D, ISO 1800, 1600 a second, 7 frames. There you go. I can do that. And I just want to show you that. That's the space station as well.
That's beautiful.
I had to be geeky.
Had to be good.
It's not often that someone in the media will actually talk about the settings required to capture the International Space Station crossing the moon. And I don't know if he realises it or not, but he selected one of my images last year for the broadcast. So I am extremely lucky. There were astrophotographers all around Australia who submitted images, and I'm not even sure he knows who I am, but he selected 2 of my images 2 years in a row, so that was a bit of a thrill, really. I think I need a haircut. I've just been down to the Elements of Byron Resort. We've been talking about the setup and the schedule for Star Stuff this year, so stay tuned. We will have a schedule for you shortly. And that's about it for this week's vlog. I'll see you next time. Bye. So this is James Gilmour from Gilmour Space Technologies. He's a sponsor of Star Stuff, and we're really grateful for your support for the Festival of Space Science and Astronomy. And Gilmour Space Technologies are doing great things. They're doing great things by themselves as a private enterprise. They're literally building rockets, which is which is really, it's the front line in terms of space exploration in this country and that sort of thing. So I just wanted to ask you, James, what are your thoughts about the new announcement to the Space Agency, and how does that affect you as a company and that sort of thing?
Sure. Well, look, I think you know, a lot of Australians have been petitioning or lobbying or vying for Australia to have a seat on the international, I guess, domain. So it's great to have that announcement. I think there's always winners and losers when it comes to a budget and an announcement. However, I think holistically it is a good step and a step in the right direction for Australia.
Yeah.
However, from where the company I represent and where we sit, the announcement is probably more centred towards downstream activities, where we're more at the pointy end, and upstream activities, a lot of us who are in that kind of area, I think have left holding our breath.
Yeah, yeah. And when you got into building rockets, how do you find a team of people that know about that sort of stuff? In Australia, I can't even think of a course that I can go to learn about building a rocket, not just a toy model rocket, but a proper rocket. Is there, I mean, does the astrophysics sort of degrees, is that not far enough for the kinds of hands-on skills that you need for building a rocket?
Yeah, well, look, I think you know, what we had set out to do, my brother and I, a long time ago, was quite bold and ambitious, and I think you know, talent, or in terms of the people we have, is integral in terms of supporting and delivering on a particular capability. I'm definitely a team player and see the positives associated with that. You are as strong as your weakest link, and I think some of the people that we've been able to assemble is a bit of a commitment, in terms of there are a number of enthusiastic individuals out there that have seen this as an opportunity for them to get involved with something they love, and to kind of maybe utilise some of, if they've had a degree in aerospace or electrical engineering, to apply that.
Yeah.
There isn't per se any kind of curriculum dedicated to propulsion. We're seeing a lot of aerospace degrees. They seem to be a bit more centred around kind of drones or possibly hypersonics. I'm hopeful that with the announcement there'll become some changes to the curriculum and what's kind of taught. I know I definitely respond favourable to that when it comes to talent procurement. We've had people involved in, I guess, amateur rocketeering in the past, who have definitely been able to fit in somewhat. A lot of our younger engineers have had some challenging times in terms of getting upskilled, but a lot of that comes from some of our old heads that we've had to procure from overseas to transfer some of that knowledge.
Yeah. Now, with the announcement of the Space Agency, there seems to be a bit of movement in WA, Northern Territory, South Australia. I'm a New South Welshman, and there doesn't seem to be anything going on in my state or Queensland. And Queensland is known for that lucky latitude of being able to launch equatorial orbital satellites. I'm not drawing into the politics of it all, but do you see Queensland has a future in this sort of industry?
Look, I mean, without a doubt, I think that Queensland did miss the boat or the bus or the ship to, I guess, contribute to some of the dialogue around, I guess, domestic space in Australia. I don't think they've missed the opportunity to actually get a seat at that table, but what's happening now is that there's been a bit of a shortfall in terms of communication to those decision makers, which has been a bit of a shame, because I'm, you know, bit biased, but having been born in Brisbane and obviously set our company up in Queensland, I think there are a number of factors that can positively influence where we could go in terms of the broad focus of aerospace, but more specifically in terms of the space domain. There are a number of universities, very good universities that I personally engage with, Bond Uni, Griffith University, QUT, UQ, sorry, and USQ.
Yeah.
I think so. There's definitely kind of critical mass there. I believe that the state government is looking at kind of space and what that means. I'm not sure if they actually know how to define that. We're kind of doing our job to, I guess, lobby or petition. I see some winds of change coming through, but I think we still have a long way to go, particularly in the Queensland context.
Yeah, yeah. And just more at a general level, did you build model rockets as a kid, or how like, is it just space in general that you said, I'm just going to get there, or how did you come into it?
Well, look, I don't think there was ever a defining moment. I do remember when I lived in Perth when I was, I haven't really publicly divulged this in the past, but I remember to because you're a mate.
Exclusive.
Yeah, you know, my brother's obviously 10, 11 year senior, so I used to hang around with him a lot. And I remember living in Perth, we used to live near the sand dunes, and we'd actually light a fire and chuck aerosol cans in and watch them propel upwards. So I don't condone that at all. But yeah, look, I mean, a lot of this stemmed from the good research that my brother had done after, you know, Dirt Tan Scale Composites won the X Prize. You know, in terms of identifying that there is an industry that is likely to grow rapidly and be sustainable, and that was space-to-space technology. And look, I mean, how can you not look up to the stars and be inspired and either want to know more about it or do whatever you can to kind of get to it? And yeah, been working very tirelessly, and we've got a great team, and we hope to be able to deliver on that mission to the stars, you know, in the next short while.
Well, I thank you for your time, and I'll ask you one more thing just before we wrap up, which is, as a rocket company in Australia, you know, generally rockets are rockets, but what sets your company apart? If a client is coming to launch a payload into space, and you guys specialise in the small CubeSat style payloads, what would set your company apart from other rocket companies?
Well, we believe that we're going to be a cost competitor. Some of our factors of production stem from our actual choice of technology, and that's a hybrid rocket. So hybrid rockets traditionally haven't been explored because a lot of companies had failed in the 60s, so a number of years ago. But we've been, I guess, dabbling a bit in terms of some slight modifications and actually getting some really good results, as people can see from some of the test footage, and we are starting to scale and ramp up, and that's been a bit of a shortfall in the past about hybrids to scale up, and we've been testing our orbital class vehicle. We're looking to scale up for a longer duration burn this week. Will be another significant achievement for the company, and little steps moving forward. But yeah, we don't have some of the big overheads with a traditional propulsion method of liquids to cryogenically store propellant, or the need for kind of turbo pumps, and there are a lot of I guess, like I said, our factors of production that we find conducive to low cost access to space. The other thing that I see as a big kind of game changer is that in the unlikely event of a problem on the rocket, we're not going to see these big explosions that we're used to on traditional platforms. So we're looking at having a great recovery method, so reducing insurance, and look, as a salesman, you know, reducing the uncomfortable mental stress associated with someone that builds a payload. And just on that, we're looking at a bit of a sweet spot in terms of our payload capacity, and that's sub 400 kilograms. So yeah, I think we've got some really interesting things to change the game in the short years to come.
Great. Well, thank you for showing me around. Thank you for your time.
No worries, mate. Happy to.